p.m. Saturday on 1:48.
The W5SC repeater, P1. Afterglow, Saturday, 10:30 p.m., W5F.
Chairman, to make myself very clear. Now, Skynet will be in control.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
Correct, sir.
Skynet.
Good evening. The time is 9 p.m.
To use the repeater, we begin the 19th Skynet. This is KSTDS. Bill, and I'll be your next control for this DAR Skynet. Skynet weekly net called Saturday night at 9 p.m. Concern our purpose is to amateurs become more familiar with the night and daytime astronomy and space in general. This net is amateurs interested in this topic. Encourage your participation and stations with our emergency may enter the net at any time by using the sign and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority topic? Please do it without directions at control me, and stations are reminded to be at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.880, node of 1109. Check-ins via Echo are also possible using the W5FD-R station ID, echoing nodes 247. Topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. Tell others about this popular net. You can now connect to the net electronically by going to the web website at www.look for announcements and click on the link to check in. We will acknowledge on the air. Don't worry. Continue to do that and link. All amateur operators need not be a member of any. The net is 30 minutes long and structured in several parts. General announcements, the Astronomical Society of Dallas, where and when you're a telescope. Recent astronomical discussion topic of the evening. What's up? Exploration of history. Constellation of space week. Good satellite passages for the next couple. Q&A and 73 All amateur systems to transmit on the frequency are divided to 10. We encourage the following people to tune in via fc.org. KE5 Tom Christie on the alt in Garland Air Radio. 5 Charlie Delta Cody Dallas on radio and YouTube. And 5G Dale Little Elm Radio. KF5JJ Bob the Cat. The Galaxy Solar System Modes. 89FG Antonia Dallas over air radio. N5BB Bill in Irving over air. And I5TE Bob Dallas Uptown over air radio. And NT5T Tony in Burke City radio. Now let's voice starting for contact yes. So if you're on, please have now call sign for transmit.
This is Golf Victor Lima, James. Foxtrot 5, Bravo Lima, French. Golf 5, Uniform Shot Romeo, also Farmers Branch. Ski 5, Golf Uniform, C, Gus, Northeast Dallas.
K5 with Victor Lima, James Carlton, F56 with Farmers Branch, K5 US, and then also in Farmers Branch, at the GUS, Marfar, East Dallas. Any other short time, so now with your call name and where you're from. But over on the website by Virginia, Fort Worth, Air Radio. Let's move on to general questions. If you're coming to the net, please count your name and where you're from.
Yes. Alpha 5, Alpha, Del Robert Richardson. pilot, handheld, no power.
W45. And give me a call where you can. Feel free to chat and let me know. Yeah, and I'll see what I'm at, and I'm good. After you were brought to echoing, there is one issue of it now. You have to the now with by
Tango Mike.
Did he?
You could come to Dreyfus Point on the east side of White Rock Lake and join the White Rock Lake Amateur Radio Club from 10 through 4 tomorrow. Really, I hope you'll participate in this wonderful event no matter where you are. Join a club or operate from home. It hardly matters as long as you put your hands on the radio and make some contacts. But if you're not actually making winter field day contacts right now, we do have some more nets that you could participate in. This is Skynet, of course, and coming up at about 10:30, 10:35-ish, we have the Afterglow movie discussion tonight. Our topic will be Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the Director's Edition. Yes, an actual good movie with a budget and special effects and professional actors and writers who know how to write. I don't know if we can survive this, but we have a good movie again. It's 2 weeks in a row. We have a good movie again on the Afterglow Movie Discussion Net. I hope you can join us here tonight at 10:30, 10:35, 10:37, whatever. We get to it. Don't forget Winter Field Day, NT 5 p.m.
Tony. Are there any other stations out there with any announcements? If so, please come out with your call signs. So let me go ahead with some announcements. The AMSAT Radio Intersatellite Group has free nets available to Dallas residents. On Tuesday evenings, 8 p.m. Central Time, you can check into the National AMSAT Net, learn all about amateur satellites and how you can use them in amateur radio. The National AMSAT Net will bring the most up-to-date information on amateur satellites currently in use or new ones coming online. You will need Echolink installed and you registered. You can find the net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website at www.amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston, Texas. 2 local nets available in Dallas. Both these nets encourage active check-ins. You can ask questions of the net control as well as others checked in. AMSAT Net East, Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas, is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater, 146.880 megahertz, with a TL tone of 110.9. Tom N5HYP is the net control. All are welcome to check in. The first Tuesday of the month is the DARC Club Night, so no AMSAT East on that Tuesday night. Dallas AMSAT Net West is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.140 megahertz. This is a tone of 110.9 and positive offset. The DARC hosts a number of nets on Monday evenings at 7 p.m. W5SC.org website. This coming Monday will be the 4th Monday. That's usually GeekNet, I believe. So this coming Monday is 4th week, so it's GeekNet, Geek Beyond Ham Radio. This 7 p.m. Geek Out Beyond Ham Radio. We expand topics to include computers, science, space, news of the weird, and much more. No topic is off limits, just as long as it's geeky. Tony NP5PM is the net control. And on Saturdays, we have TechNet from 7 to 8 p.m., Q&A on all things ham radio related. There's also a swap meet, Rookie's Corner, news and information, and ham radio events and contests, alternating net control each week. And following TechNet on Saturday nights, which is the night of nets, is Skynet from 9 to 10:30 p.m. Astronomy, space, and space exploration are the topics. Also news and information, satellite passes, and Constellation of the week. And as Tony mentioned, following Skynet is the Afterglow Movie Net from 10:30 to midnight. Will it be a hit or the dreaded miss? Thumbs up or thumbs down? You make the call. First and third is the Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting on the air. What's going on in your ham world? Tell us. Also learn about the club that maintains this popular feeder, the Dallas Amateur Radio Club. Club news and information, events, activities, including club meetings, lecture and lab, public service events, contests, and just general discussion. Everyone can check into this net. And daily is the ARRLNet National Traffic System Training Net every night at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. Learn how message traffic is handled on this formal training net. Newbies are welcome to check in as this is a training net. The NTS also conducts an evening net on the Irving Whiskey Alpha 5 Charlie Kilo Foxtrot repeater, 146.72 megahertz at 9:30 p.m. on any or all of these nets. And as promised, after Skynet is the Afterglow Movie Net. So this time I will turn the net over to Tom, KE5ICX, if you will give us tonight's Afterglow info from KF5's PDS.
Well, thank you, Billy. This is KE5ICX. I'm Tom. I'm down in Corpus Christi. Let me see if I can find it. Here it is. Roy was fed up with aliens, mainly because he was in charge of fixing electrical lines in the greater Muncie area by fishing stuck alien spacecraft out of local transmission lines, a far too frequent activity in his mind. The dreaded call came in, and it was another alien report. This time, 3 spacecraft buzzing a hapless neighborhood with spacey aerobatics, slicing power lines and leaving everyone in the dark afterwards. Before he could acknowledge the call, a nearby spaceship flashed him from above, apparently wanting him to expedite an extragalactic rescue. Join us for the classic Spielberg space movie, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. This is the definitive director's edition. It actually is the best version. Tonight at 10:30 p.m. Back to you, Billy, KE5ICX.
Tom, and you can keep up with all DARC events, events, and activities by going to the club website, w5fc.org. We currently have the following people checked in via w5fc.org. We have November 5 Oscar Foxtrot, Clay, and Mesquite over on Echo Link. So welcome, Clay. Now I'll take additional voice check-ins, so if you have not checked in yet to this evening's net, please come down with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from. Any other check-ins? We'll move on to our next segment, which is the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. But this time I will turn the net over to Chaz, KF5JHA, to give us that information from KF5PDS.
Thank you, Billy. Good evening, everyone. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. The Texas Astronomical Society meeting, there was one last night, but the next one's going to be on February the 28th. The meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas, and also held at on Zoom. Now, Saturday night public observing sessions continue. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday night, so there could be an opportunity for live reports from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas public observing sessions. Excuse me. Currently on the fourth Saturday of the month there is no scheduled stargazing, but if there had been, it would have been canceled because it's cloudy and actually it's raining where I am anyway right now. You can check the TASS website at texasastro.org for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. This is KF5JHA, back to our net control. It's KF5PDS. Billy.
Thank you, Chaz. And yes, this is KF5TDS, Billy, your net control for the session of the DARC Skynet. All right, next up is National Space Society events and activities. So at this time, I will turn the net over to Bill, N5DBs, and that is yours from KF5TDS.
Thank you, Billy. This is Bill, November 5 Bravo Bravo. I am the Vice President and Membership Director of the National Space Society North Texas Chapter. You can reach me at space@byram.net. The National Space Society is a nonprofit group based in the U.S. which is interested in the exploration and development of space and the creation of a spacefaring civilization. The big event each year for the National Space Society is the International Space Development Conference, ISDC. The next ISDC will be held in Orlando, Florida. on June the 19th through the 22nd of 2025. The North Texas chapter of the National Space Society meets at 3:30 p.m. on the second Sunday afternoon of each month. The meeting location is Spring Creek Barbecue on the southwest corner of Highway 183 and Beltline Road in Irving. The next meeting will be held on Sunday afternoon, February the 9th. Our virtual speaker will be Dr. Julia Klein, a research aerospace engineer from NASA Langley in Hampton, Virginia. She will make a presentation about in-space assembly research. This is like I'm mixing up the acronym, but it's in-space assembly research at NASA Langley Research Center. Our meetings are also available virtually using WebEx. Contact N5BB if you'd like to attend online. On the last Friday evening of each month at 6 to 8 p.m., the National Space Society North Texas chapter sponsors a social event called Space Rendezvous. The location is Cheddar's Restaurant, 700 West Highway 635 in Irving. This is between MacArthur Boulevard and Bush Turnpike on the south frontage road of Highway 635. Anyone is welcome to attend and discuss human activities in space with us. No membership in any group is required. Our last such event was on December 27th, and we had 9 attendees. The next Space Rendezvous will be held on Friday, January 31st. I will not be there because I'll be coming home from hospital after knee surgery, so I won't be able to get around. But other people will be there to get things organized. Our next public outreach event will be at Crowley Independent School District for their STEM Space Day on Thursday, February 13th. We also are sponsoring a special awards scholarships at the Dallas Regional Science and Engineering Fair in Fair Park on February the 15th. So we'll have judges at this event for space-related student projects. Our local National Space Society chapter website is NTS. Our group also has an active Facebook page. Just type National Space Society of North Texas into the search box. If you have any questions about the National Space Society or the local chapter, please contact Bill, N5BB, at my email address listed on QRZ or at space@byrom.net. And that's all I got, Billy. This is N5BB. Back to net.
Okay, thank you so much, Bill. I have there's recent chemical discoveries, so I understand that Tom is going to read this segment. So, Tom, KE5ICX, I will hand a net to you from KS5EDF.
All right, thank you, Billy. Let me get set up here real quick. I kind of fell behind trying to get the stream to work properly. It was acting up, so I'm a little behind. Here we are. Okay. All right, well, just go to plan B here. I guess it's just going to be difficult. Hold on. Okay, here it is. We have from Science Daily website, this is extreme supersonic winds measured on planet outside of our solar system. It says tornadoes, cyclones, and hurricanes wreak havoc on Earth, but scientists have now detected planetary winds on an entirely different scale far outside of the solar system. Ever since its discovery in 2016, astronomers have been investigating whether on WASP-127b, a gas giant located over 500 light years from Earth. The planet is slightly larger than Jupiter, but has only a fraction of its mass, making it puffy. The international team of astronomers have now made an unexpected discovery: supersonic winds that are raging on the planet. Part of the atmosphere of this planet is moving towards us at a high velocity, while another part is moving away from us at the same speed, says Lisa Nordman, a scientist at the University of Göttingen, Germany, and lead author of the study. This signal shows us there's a very fast supersonic jet wind around the planet's equator. At 9 kilometers per second, which is close to a whopping 33,000 kilometers per hour, the jet winds move at nearly 6 times the speed at which the planet rotates. This is something we hadn't seen before, said Norton. It is the fastest wind ever measured in a jet stream that goes around a planet. In comparison, the fastest wind ever measured in the solar system was found on Neptune, moving at only 0.5 kilometers per second, or 1,800 kilometers per hour. The team, whose research was published today in the Astronomy and Astrophysics, mapped the weather and makeup of WASP-127b using the Crisis instrument on ESO's VLT. I guess that's a very large telescope. By measuring how the light of the host star travels through the planet's upper atmosphere, they managed to trace its composition. The results confirm the presence of water vapor and carbon monoxide molecules in the planet's atmosphere. But when the team tracked the speed of this material in the atmosphere, they observed, much to their surprise, a double peak, indicating that one side of the atmosphere is moving towards us and the other away from us at high speed. The researchers conclude that the powerful jet stream winds around the equator could explain this unexpected result. Further building up their weather map, the team also found that the poles are cooler than the rest of the planet. This is also a slight temperature difference between the morning and evening sides of WASP-127b. This shows that the planet has complex weather patterns just like Earth and other planets of our system, said Fasiyan, a co-author of the study and the professor at the University of Science and Technology of China. The field of exoplanet research is rapidly advancing. Up until a few years ago, astronomers could measure only the mass and the radius of planets outside the solar system. Today, telescopes like ESO's VLT already allow scientists to map the weather on these distant worlds and analyze their atmospheres. Understanding the dynamics of these exoplanets help us explore mechanisms such as heat redistribution and chemical processes, improving our understanding of planet formation and potentially shedding light on the origins of our own solar system, said David Kant from the Ludwig Maximilian University of Munich, Germany, and the co-author of the paper. Interestingly, at present, studies like this can only be done by ground-based observatories, as the instruments currently on space telescopes do not have the necessary velocity precision. ESO's extremely large telescope, which is under construction close to the VLT in Chile, and its Andes instrument will allow researchers to delve even deeper into the weather patterns on faraway planets. This means that we can likely resolve even finer details of the wind patterns and expand this research to smaller rocky planets, Nordman concludes. And then there's a note from previously. It says, while the team hasn't measured the rotation speed of the planet directly, they expect WASP-127b to be tidally locked, meaning the planet takes as long to rotate around its own axis as it does to orbit the star. Knowing how big the planet is and how long it takes to orbit its star, they can infer how fast it's rotating. And that's it, Billy. Back to you. This is KE5ICX.
Thank you very much, Tom. This is KFITS Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, next up is discussion topic of the evening. So for my topic, I've chosen tonight, seeing versus transparency, and I'm just going to give you some information from the Astronomical League website, astroleague.org. So on their website, they have a seeing and transparency guide. So when you're first beginning with astronomy, these are terms that you'll hear a lot, especially, when you go out to observe. These are two things that you want to pay attention to because they will affect the quality of observing. Seeing and transparency are values that an observer uses to compare the quality of the sky from night to night. The values are very specific to an individual observer's visual acuity. Seeing is a measure of how stable the sky is, and transparency is a measure of how clear the sky is. Most of the Astronomical League's observing programs require the observer to evaluate these conditions for each observation and to record their observation log. So here are two scales that are acceptable for all observing programs. They're simple to use and require no special equipment. Both of these values can be done very formally using special equipment, but for the AL observing programs, this level of effort is not required. So for seeing, we want to know how stable the sky is. So if it's E for excellent, the brighter stars are not twinkling at all. VG, or very good, means that the stars are twinkling slightly, but the brighter planets are not twinkling. G for good, the brighter planets are twinkling slightly. Fair, F for fair, is the brighter planets are obviously twinkling. And P is poor, the atmosphere is turbulent, all objects are twinkling to the point for observation is not practical. So that is the scale for seeing or how stable the sky is. Transparency is for how clear is the sky. Transparency is a measure of what you can see in the nighttime sky in spite of dust, smoke, haze, humidity, or light pollution. An easy way to this is use the magnitude of the faintest star that you can see. Ideally, this would be looking straight up at zenith. But in the northern hemisphere, to make life simpler, you can use the Little Dipper or Ursa Minor if you can see it. This is used because there are stars of every magnitude, I believe from 1 to 6, and also dimmer, that you can use. So depending on how many stars in the Little Dipper you can see, you can use that as a gauge for transparency. So if you can see no stars, then that's a magnitude 1 sky. Only polar magnitude 2 skies. 3 plus Kochab or Furtad is magnitude 3 skies. 4 plus any stars in the tail are magnitude 4 skies. 5 plus another bowl star is magnitude 5 skies. All 7 stars, magnitude 6 skies. And more than 7 stars visible, you have magnitude 7 skies. Although atmospheric extinction will vary from season to season and from latitude to latitude, using a Little Dipper is a simple and reasonable solution. So there's some information about seeing and transparency from the Astronomical League. The site is astroleague.org. Now, a very handy tool to use if you go to cleardarksky.com, the Clear Sky Chart homepage, and this will show a clear sky chart that was created by Attila Danko. It shows cloud cover, transparency, seeing, smoke, wind, humidity, and temperature, and it's a color-coded scale that will tell you from night to night what year. So mid-year this year, and details will be put up on cleardarksky.com. His obituary says, in lieu of flowers or trees, donations can be made to the Wellspring Cancer Support Foundation at www.wellspring.ca. So rest in peace, Attila Danko. We applaud your efforts in making clear sky charts and making the tool available to all astronomers. It really is a big help to us when we want to go out and observe. So again, the Clear Sky Chart is on cleardarksky.com, and the Astronomical League is astrally.org. So there you have it. There's my report on seeking versus transparency. Does anyone have any questions or comments for my presentation? If so, please come now with your call sign. Hearing any, so we'll move on to our next segment, which is Was Up. So at this time, I will return the net to Chaz, KF5JHA. The net is yours from KF5TDS.
Again, Billy, this is Chaz, KF5JHA. Slide master, slide number 2, please. We call this segment of Skynet Was Up because it's all about what has happened over the last couple of weeks astronomically, and what is to come over the next couple of weeks, and maybe beyond a little bit. Slide master, slide number 3. We've talked about the predicted nova of the star T Corona Borealis, which may erupt at any time. It was supposed to erupt back in September, but it hasn't done so yet. It is currently at a brightness of around 10th magnitude, which is much too faint to be seen with just your 2 eyes. I observed it yesterday morning, Friday morning, and it's still a 10th magnitude. But when it goes nova, T Corona Borealis could become as bright as the North Star. Now, I can see the North Star with just my 2 eyes from a very light-polluted location right here in Mesquite. Now, when it goes nova, it might only be really bright enough to see like the North Star for only a few hours. Wow. We have to have a good timing on that one, wouldn't we? Slide master, slide number 4. This image of the sun was taken on Thursday, January the 23rd. I got that from spaceweather.com. The large sunspot complexes on the sun are so large that you can use your solar eclipse glasses to see them. And that's happened a couple of times over the last 10 days. The sun is near its 11-year solar maximum. Now, when's that going to be? We don't know until after it's passed, but it could be right around now. I've talked about the solar cycle, well, about a month and a half ago on Skynet. Slide master, slide number 5, please. So the third quarter moon was on January the 21st. The current phase of the moon is a waning crescent. New moon is on January the 29th. On February the 1st, the moon is at perigee, which is a point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 367,457 kilometers. First quarter moon is on February the 5th. Full moon is on February the 12th. Yep, just a couple days before Valentine's Day. On February the 17th, the moon will be at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 404,882 kilometers. And third quarter phase of the moon is going to be on February the 20th. Slide master, slide number 6. On January the 31st, the moon and Saturn are in conjunction in the west-southwestern evening sky. On slide master, slide number 7. On February the 1st, the moon and Venus are in conjunction in the west-southwestern evening sky. Now, on February the 1st, if it's clear that day, I would be looking in the sky for the moon. And the moon and Venus are close enough together that you might be able to spot Venus, because Venus is bright enough to see in the daytime sky right now. Interesting, yes. Slide master, slide number 8. On February the 6th, between midnight and sunrise, the moon occults the Pleiades star cluster. All you need to observe this is just your 2 eyes. But if you use a pair of binoculars or telescope, that's going to greatly enhance your view. Again, that's on February the 6th. Slide master, slide number 9. Later that day, on the evening of February the 6th, there's a conjunction of the moon and Jupiter in the evening sky. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 10. Now, do any of you out there in Radio Land have questions or need a fill on any of the information? Or maybe you just have a general astronomy question. Come now with your call sign if you have a question or need a fill. Not hearing anything. Slide master, slide number 11. So as the moon wanes right now, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, and pray for our world. Because it's the only one where humans live. Well, right now. And until next time, actually I'll be doing another segment on Skynet in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. This is KF5JHA. Back to our net control.
Chaz, this is KF5 TDS Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Right, let's do a quick check-in round. Jimmy, I see you over there on Everlink. If you would like to check in, I can give you some time. I'm not seeing anybody on the website call sheet, but if anybody would like to check in, please go ahead with your call sign name and where you're transmitting from. Hearing anyone, so we'll move with our next segment.
Study finds Earth's small asteroid visitor, likely a chunk of moon rock. The near-Earth object was likely ejected into space after an impact thousands of years ago. Now it would contribute new insights to asteroid and lunar science. The small near-Earth object, called 2024 PT5, captured the world's attention last year after a NASA-funded telescope discovered it's lingering close to but never orbiting our planet for several months. The asteroid, which is about 33 feet wide, does not pose a hazard to Earth, but it orbits around the Sun and closely matches that of our planet, hinting that it may have originated nearby. As described in the study published January 14th in the Astrophysical Journal Letters, researchers have collected further evidence of 2024 PT5 being of local origin. It appears to be composed of rock broken off from the moon's surface and ejected into space after a large impact. We have a general idea that this asteroid may have come from the moon, but the smoking gun was when we found out that it was rich in silicate materials, not the kind that are seen on asteroids, but those that have been found in lunar rock samples, said Teddy Carita, an astronomer at Lowell Observatory in Arizona, who led the research. It looks like it hasn't been in space for very long, maybe just a few thousand years or so, and there's a lack of space weathering that would have caused the spectrum to redden. Next is NASA honors fallen astronauts with Day of Remembrance ceremony. NASA honored its fallen space explorers during the annual Day of Remembrance on Thursday, January 23rd. The agency held events at a number of facilities around the nation, including Kennedy Space Center in Florida and Johnson Space Center in Houston. The proceedings commemorated the lives lost in NASA's three space tragedies: the Apollo 1 fire in January of 1967, the Space Shuttle Challenger explosion in January of 1986, and the Shuttle Columbia disaster in February of 2003. Next up, trillions of comets discovered orbiting alien planet systems. The so-called planetesimal belts are filled with tiny millimeter-sized particles created by collisions between comets. Rings of comets have been discovered around 74 alien star systems, revealing not only existence of trillions of icy exocomets, but also the source of most of the water in these systems. The discovery of what is being termed platitesimal belts was made in joint observation by the Atacama Large Millimeter Array, or ALMA, in Chile, and the Submillimeter Array, SMA, at Mauna Kea in Hawaii. Because the belts are so far away from their central star, they are cold, with temperatures ranging between minus 418 and minus 238 degrees Fahrenheit. As such, they mostly radiate light at long wavelengths, hence the need for ALMA and SMA. Although to us a millimeter is small, it's much larger than the nano wavelength of optical light and the micron-sized wavelengths of infrared light seen by other observatories like the James Webb Space Telescope. The submillimeter light ALMA and SMA detected is coming from uncountable tiny pebbles, just millimeters in size, which were flung off large cometary bodies as those larger bodies collided together over cosmic timescales. Next up are birthdays. We start with this famous guy, January 20th, 1930, Buzz Aldrin, who flew on Gemini 12 and Apollo 11. On January 20th, 1948, Jerry L. Ross was born. STS-61B, 27, 37, 55, 74, 88, and 110 were his missions. Joseph R. Tanner, he was born January 21st, 1950. He was on STS-66, 82, 97, and 115. We have Thomas David Jones. He was born on January 22nd, 1955. He flew on STS-59, 68, 80, and 98. And we have another somewhat famous astronaut, William Pogue. He flew on Skylab 4. He was born on January 23rd, 1930. Robert Cabana, born January 23rd also, but in 1943. He flew on STS-41, 53, 65, and 88. Then we have Kyle Lundgren. He was born on January 23rd, 1973. He was on Expedition 4445, SpaceX Crew 4, Expedition 67 and 68. Next is Jack Fisher. He was born on January 23rd, 1974, was part of Expedition 51 and 52. And then finally, we have, on January 24th, 1952, William F. Reddy. He flew on STS-42, 51, and 79. This week in space history, we have on January 19th, I believe 2019, 2015, there we go. NASA's New Horizons spacecraft was the first spacecraft to explore Pluto up close, flying by the dwarf planet and its moons on July 14th, 2015. In early 2019, New Horizons flew part of its second major science target, 2014 MU-69, the most distant object ever explored up close. Then on January 22nd, 1968, was the launch of Apollo 5. Yes, Apollo 5, assembled atop a Saturn 1B rocket. The Apollo Lunar Module, or LM, had its first test flight. The mission, designated Apollo 5, launched into low Earth orbit for an 11-hour and 10-minute series of tests. Following nose cone jettison, the LM separated from its LM adapter to begin a series of burns designed to simulate lunar descent and abort scenarios. The nearly half-day mission was deemed a success, bringing NASA another step closer to landing humans on the moon. On January 23rd, 2003, Pioneer 10 sends its last transmission. Pioneer 10, originally designated Pioneer F, is an American space probe launched in 1972 and weighing 258 kilograms. That's 569 pounds, and completed its first mission to the planet Jupiter. Thereafter, Pioneer 10 became the first of 5 artificial satellites to achieve the escape velocity needed to leave the solar system. The space exploration project was conducted by NASA Ames Research Center in California. Pioneer 10 was assembled around a hexagonal bus with a 9-foot diameter parabolic disc, high-gain antenna, and the spacecraft was spin-stabilized around the axis of the antenna. Its electric power was supplied by 4 radioisotope thermoelectric generators that provided a combined 155 watts at launch. It was launched on March 3, 1972 by an Atlas Centaur expendable vehicle from Cape Canaveral between July 15, 1972 and February 15th of 73. It became the first spacecraft to traverse the asteroid belt. Photography of Jupiter began November 6, 1973 at a range of 25 million kilometers. That's 16 million miles, and about 500 images were transmitted. The closest approach to the planet was on December 3, 1973 at a range of 82,178 miles. During the mission, the onboard instruments were used to study the asteroid belt, the environment around Jupiter, the solar wind, cosmic rays, and eventually the far reaches of the solar system and the heliosphere. Radio communications were lost with Pioneer 10 on January 23, 2003 because of loss of electric power for its radio transmitter, with the probe at a distance of 80 AU from Earth, or 12 billion kilometers. The Voyager 2 flyby of Uranus, the first man-made object to fly by Uranus, made its closest approach on January 24th of 1986 with a range of about 50,640 miles. During its journey, Voyager 2 discovered 10 new moons, including Ophelia and Cordelia, named after the characters of William Shakespeare. Our one flyby so far yielded an amazing harvest of new information about this mysterious planet. This included reported wind speeds in an atmosphere of 450 miles per hour. Then finally, this last article, or memorable piece, was from 2004. I'm looking for a date. I don't have a date. That's unusual. Must have deleted it accidentally. Oh, you know what? It was also January 24th, but of 2004. After nearly a 7-month-long journey, Mars exploration rover Opportunity landed on the red planet. Originally, scientists had planned that Opportunity would explore the Martian terrain for 90 days, but the rover ended up with an extended stay, and the mission lasted until February 13, 2019. In its time on Mars, Opportunity collected evidence of long ago the planet had conditions that could have supported microbial life. And that's it, Billy. Back to you. This is KE5ICX.
Good evening. The time is 10 p.m.
Great. Thank you very much, Tom. This is K5TDS, Billy, your net control for this session of the DMC Skynet.
It's beginning in 2012 until May of 2019 with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Now, since there's about 52 easily visible constellations seen over North Texas throughout the year, out of the 88 total number of constellations in the sky, so Ms. Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. And in her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. So Ms. Carolyn's constellation of the week this week is called Orion the Hunter. Now, Orion is a mighty hunter of the ancient Greek mythology. There are various stories connected with him, but the best known is one probably the story about he was such a good hunter that he boasted that he had dominion over all living things. Hera, or also known as Juno in Roman version of the story, sent a deadly scorpion to punish him for his arrogant pride. And the scorpion sting killed him. However, he was honored with a place in the heavens where you can see him on a clear, crisp winter night. I saw Orion last night. Can't see him tonight because it's cloudy. The Scorpion is also honored and placed exactly opposite Orion in the sky as the constellation Scorpius. With Orion rising as Scorpius sets and vice versa, the two will never fight again. And Slide Master, slide number 13, one of the most important parts of Skynet, the jokes of the week. Have the jokes related to the constellation of the week, so here we go. Orion's belt is a big waste of space. How would you fill in the rest of that? It only has a rating of 3 stars. Orion ordered a belt off Amazon. It wasn't to his liking, so he decided to leave a review, and it reads, "This belt looks wonderful. It doesn't fit well, and it can't be adjusted easily. I only give it 3 stars." Okay, if you didn't understand the last 2 jokes, Orion's belt only has 3 stars in it. There you go. What did Orion receive after losing a bullfighting competition? Received a Constellation prize. Now, Orion's sort of a superhero, so who is the worst superhero? Think about it. We call him Vacuum Man. He really sucks. What do you want to learn? Oh, wait. If you want to learn how to draw superheroes, you start with Groot. You know Groot. He's from Guardians of the Galaxy. Why would you start with him? Well, he's just a stick figure. A supervillain said, "Why is my calendar wrapped in aluminum foil?" I said, "Well, I filled your plan." Okay, Slide Master, slide number 14, please. One of the famous stars in the sky is Betelgeuse, or Betelgeuse, Alpha Orionis. The name is from the Arabic, meaning armpit of the central one, or armpit of the mighty one. Betelgeuse is magnitude 0.7 red supergiant star with a spectral classification of M2. It's believed to be about 520 light years away. It is so large that if it were placed where our sun was in our solar system, it would swallow up the entire orbits of Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, and it may reach almost out to Jupiter. It's one of the largest stars known, and may be the largest naked eye star that you can see. It is so large that even at its distance, it can be perceived as a tiny disk instead of just a point source in our largest and best telescopes. Because of this, have been detected on Betelgeuse. It is interesting that Orion's mortal enemy, the Scorpion, is a quite similar star, Antares. It too has a red supergiant and is believed to be only slightly smaller than Betelgeuse. Betelgeuse is an irregular variable with a period of roughly 5.7 years. Its maximum and minimum vary from one pulsation to the next. It's been observed to be as bright as magnitude 0.2 and as faint as magnitude 1.2. It also grows and shrinks significantly as it pulses. Just 5 years ago in 2020, it was a deep minimum about magnitude 1.37, which is the dimmest that has been seen in over 25 years. There's much conjecture about some, maybe even calling it hype, that this could be a prelude to Betelgeuse going supernova. Remember that, in a task meeting in February 26, 2021, there was a featured person, Dr. Dupree, and she discussed that Betelgeuse's dimming was probably due to dust cloud. And now it's back to its regular brightness. But guess what? The dimming is going to happen again very soon because we're right at that next juncture, that 7-year juncture. Slide Master, slide number 15, please. Rigel is another bright star in Orion. Rigel comes from the old Arabic phrase that translates into the left leg of the giant. Rigel is the type B8 blue-white supergiant. It's estimated to be about 900 light years away. Its magnitude is 0.14. It's the seventh brightest star in the sky. Rigel is a double star. The small bluish companion star is 6.7 magnitude, and in Burnham's Celestial Handbook it notes that it can be seen in a good 6-inch telescope. It may be even glimpsed in as small as a 3-inch telescope under ideal conditions. Since it was first measured in 1831, no change in position has been detected between Rigel and its companion. Another star, Alnitak, means girdle, which is appropriate since Alnitak is what's the easternmost of the three stars that form Orion's belt. Alnitak is a blue-white star in a spectral class straddling the border between the O-type star and B-type star, specifically either O9 or B0. Its magnitude is 1.79 star, and it's estimated to be about 1,600 light years away. It is a triple star system. Mintaka is the westernmost of the three stars in Orion's belt, and it's a widely separated double star that is easily split. So this is one of the observing objects that I use when we have stargazing sessions at Brookhaven campus of Dallas College. I hope we can do that again soon. Maybe it'll be cleared sometime soon. Mintaka's brighter component is actually an eclipsing binary star. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Chaz. Slide master, slide number 16. M42, also known as the Great Orion Nebula, is one of the finest showpiece objects in all the sky. It was the first deep sky object that I tried to photograph. Even though M42 is the bright emission nebula, it also has a dark nebula observing club object too, because there's an intervening portion of the dark nebula in the northeastern portion of M42 called the Fish's Mouth. I've also seen the structure referred to as the Dark Bay. Just beyond the deepest part of the Dark Bay lies the next object, the Trapezium star group. Slide master, slide number 17. The trapezium is also known as Theta 1 Orionis, is a multiple star system in the heart of the Great Orion Nebula. It is the ionizing ultraviolet radiation of these stars that causes the gas in the nebula to glow through fluorescence. You know, like the fluorescent tubes you've got. The four brightest stars on the trapezium are fairly easy to see in just about any decent quality telescope. The four brightest stars are referred to by letters A, B, and C, and D. These four are in order of right ascension and not magnitude. The brightest of the group is star C, is magnitude 5.4. The faintest of the four is B star, which is 8th magnitude. There are more stars than these, however. Star E was discovered in 1826 by Struve. It's an 11th magnitude star. Star F, also 11th magnitude, was found by John Herschel in 1830. G star was discovered in 1888 by A.G. Clark with the 36-inch refractor at Lick Observatory. It is a very dim 16th magnitude. Finally, star H was discovered later the same year by Edward Emerson Barnard. H is actually a double star with two components separated by 1.3 arc seconds, both being about 16th magnitude. Stars G and H require a very large aperture telescope to see visually. Maybe what we would call the yard scope, 36-inch reflector might work. Slide master, slide number 18, please. NGC 1981 is an open star cluster just above Orion's sword. It's one of the 1 degree north of the Great Orion Nebula of M42. It is a loose course cluster consisting of about 50 stars, with 6 of the stars being much brighter than the rest. There's two curved rows of 3 stars each, with the eastern row being the brighter of the two. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 19. Now there's a few more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Orion and Hunter. I've skipped several interesting stars and objects, like the Horsehead Nebula, the Flame Nebula, the Running Man Nebula, and much more. But there's a time limit and Skynet, so we've sort of skipped those. I've given you just a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has, at last count, 74 different observing programs, most of which have about 100 objects. So if you observe about 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pen in about a year. Slide master, slide number 20. And that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Orion Hunter. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for the research and words on deep sky objects that I use, borrow, and steal for every Skynet. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Now next week I'll take a look at Rumpus, the hare, not too far away from Orion. And this is KF5JJ saying 73 and good night. Back to our net control. That would be Billy, KF5PDS.
Thank you so much, Chaz. This is KF5PDS, Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, let's do a quick check if there's anyone out there that has not checked into this evening's net. Please come now with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from. And I don't see anyone new. Saw someone blip in on Echolink, but it looks like they winked out, so maybe they'll rejoin us. I don't see anybody extra on the website check-in list, so let's move on with our next segment, which is space launches for this week. And then there's also visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, which Tom usually reads both of those. So, Tom, you've got my permission just to go through both your segments without interruption. So I'll return the net to you, Tom, KE5ICX from KF5PDS.
All right, I'll do exactly that, Billy, and thank you for doing the net this evening. So we'll start with space launches for this week. We have January 27th. There will be a Starlink 12-7 launch. This will be from Cape Canaveral at SLC 40. Falcon 9 rocket will launch another batch of Starlink V2 mini satellites into low Earth orbit a little more than 8 minutes after liftoff. The first stage booster will target a landing on a drone ship positioned in the Atlantic Ocean. Don't know which one. We have Electron mission. This will be February 3rd, 4th, overnight. IoT4 You and Me is the name of this mission. It will launch from Launch Complex 1 at the Hea Peninsula in New Zealand. The Electron rocket will launch a batch of 5 satellites for Kinetis Internet of Things constellation. This will be the 4th of 5 planned launches to deploy 25 satellites. Rocket Lab will not be attempting to recover the booster on this mission. There will be a Falcon 9 mission, Starlink 10-12. Do you want me to read the whole thing? SLC 40, Cape Canaveral, it'll launch from. We'll launch another batch of satellite V2, Starlink V2 mini satellites in low Earth orbit. A little more than 8 minutes after liftoff, the first stage booster will land on a SpaceX drone ship stationed in the Atlantic Ocean. We have spring of 2025 at New Glenn Escapade. We've talked about this, launch from Complex 36, Space Force Station in Cape Canaveral. This is the NASA Escape and Plasma Acceleration and Dynamic Explorer mission, or ESCAPADE. 2 satellites named Blue and Gold will make a roughly 11-month journey to Mars, where they will perform and then about an 11-month science mission while orbiting the red planet. Blue and Gold were manufactured by Rocket Lab over 3.5 years and carry science experiments from the University of California. Then we have to be determined the Vulcan Centaur Dream Chaser 1 mission. We keep waiting on this one. This will launch, is a lifting body, resupply spacecraft, will launch on top of a rocket and land on a runway. This will be the Dream Chaser's first flight into space. It'll fly on a Vulcan Centaur rocket in the VC-4L configuration. Okay, next up, ISS passes and Tiangong, so let me pull that up here. We have on January 29th a minus 2.2 magnitude flyover. It'll be at 1844 in the evening out of the north-northwest to reach its highest point at 1847. It'll fall to the east-northeast at 1848. Then we have on January 30th, we have a minus 3.7 magnitude. That's at 1931 in the evening. Out of the northwest, it'll reach its highest point at 73 degrees at 1934, and it'll fall to 1935 to the south. January 31st is another good pass. There's actually 2. The better of the 2 is minus 3.7 magnitude at 1842 in the evening. Reach its highest point at 53 degrees at 1845, and it'll fall to the east-southeast at 1849. Let's see here. I give you February 1st as well. What time we got? Oh, we got time. It'll be minus 1.1 magnitude at 1930 out of the west-northwest. Reach its highest point at 1933, 20 degrees, and it'll fall to the southwest-south at 1935. And then finally, February 2nd, minus 2.3 magnitude at 1840. In the evening out of the west-northwest, reach its highest point in the southwest at 40 degrees at 1844, and it'll fall to 1847 to the south-southeast. Glow in the sky. The one that is the best out of all of them is January 27th, minus 1.9 magnitude at 5:53 in the evening. It'll be at 59 degrees, so it's coming out of shadow out of the north. It will fall to the east-northeast at 5:56 and leave ecliptic at 10 degrees. So, Miss Billy, that's it for me. Back to you, KE5ICX.
Very much, Tom. All right, we'll do another quick check-in round. Let's see, looking over on the club list check-in list, I see KE5JIC, Randy, Corpus Christi on All-Star. Welcome, Randy. If there's anyone that would like to check in over voice or echo link, any vote, please come now with your call sign name or where you're transmitting from the seat. And not see any extra over on Echo Link. So let's see, we've some time for astronomical Q&A. So is there anyone who's checked in that has any questions, astronomical, please come down with the call sign. Last call for check-ins. Last call. Anyone would like to check in that has not already checked into the Seeing's Net, please come now with your call sign name and where you're transmitting from. Ask any extra over on EchoLink and on the club website. So I'm going to go ahead and close the net. Tonight we had 20 m participating on the air, so thank you all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We are always looking for net control stations for this and all the other DART nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to net@wfc.org. You can follow topic discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and X, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. So next Saturday night, this is F5PDS Billy, and I'll be closing 22:24 local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. 73 everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe. And remember, following Skynet at 10:30 is the Afterglow Movie Net, where tonight's movie for discussion will be Close Encounters of the Third Kind. 73 everyone.
We're going to take a brief break for about 6 minutes and start the net at 10:30. So you
operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
All right, it is now 10:30, and it is time to do the Afterglow Movie Net. We have actually a fairly decent film tonight, Close Encounters of the Third Kind from 1977. This was the third, I believe the third edit of this film that came out for, I think, the DVD release. And it is an amalgam of both the original theatrical release in 1977, the, I think, re-release in 1978, I believe it was, and then finally, I don't know, 1990s when they did the director's cut. Could be wrong about that. I'd have to look it all up, but this is the edit, and it has a little bit of the theatrical release and some portions removed and a little bit of the re-release with some additional scenes in it. So I think personally, when you go and watch this version of the film, you got the best of both. There was some gimmicky stuff they did where they went inside the spacecraft with Roy that was in the re-release. You get to see the inside. Well, I thought that was tremendous disappointment and a distraction to the film. So did Steven Spielberg, who actually advised against it, even though he had filmed the sequence. I guess he didn't like it. At any rate, instead of giving you the plot, which just about everybody who's listening probably already knows, I'll give you a little bit about the film itself and its production. Came out in 1977. It was written and directed by Steven Spielberg with Richard Dreyfuss, Linda Dillon, Terry Garr, Bob Balaban, Carrie Guthrie, and Francois Truffaut. The film depicts the story of Roy Neary, a near everyday blue-collar worker in Indiana whose life changes with an encounter with a UFO, and Jillian, a single mother whose 3-year-old son was also abducted by a UFO. This was a long-cherished project for Spielberg. In late '73, he developed a deal with Columbia Pictures for a science fiction film. Though Spielberg received sole credit for the script, he was assisted by Paul Schrader, John Hill, David Giller, Hal Barwood, Matthew Robbins, and Jerry Belson, all of whom contributed to the screenplay in varying degrees. The title is derived from ufologist J. Allen Hynek's classification of close encounters with extraterrestrials, in which the third kind denotes human observations of extraterrestrials or animate beings. Douglas Trumbull served as visual effects supervisor, while Carlo Rambaldi designed the extraterrestrials. It's made on a budget of $19.4 million. Close Encounters was released in a limited number of cities on November 16th and 23rd, 1977, expanded wide release the following month. It was critical and financial success, grossing over $300 million worldwide. It received numerous awards and nominations at the 50th Academy Awards, 32nd British Academy Awards, and the 35th Golden Globe, and 5th Saturn Awards, which have been widely acclaimed by the American Film Institute. In December of 2007, it was deemed culturally, historically, aesthetically significant by the United States Library of Congress and selected for preservation by the National Film Registry. The special edition was released theatrically in 1980. There we go. Spielberg agreed to create this edition to add more scenes that they'd been unable to include in the original release, with the studio demanding a controversial scene depicting the interior of the extraterrestrial mothership. Spielberg's dissatisfaction with the altered ending scene led to a third version, the director's cut, on VHS and Laserdisc in 1998, later on DVD and Blu-ray. It is the longest version, combining Spielberg's favorite elements from both previous editions, but removing the scenes inside the mothership. The film was later remastered in 4K and was then re-released in theaters in 2017 for its 40th anniversary. Okay, and with that, I'm going to go ahead and open it up to check-ins. Now, for those of you who may be listening, and I'm sure all of you know this already, but we'll be this short and sweet. There'll be 3 rounds where we discuss the film. We'll talk about the plot, followed by characterization and acting, followed by a 3rd round, if we have time, special effects and other things of note. We'll go through all of these. I have a feeling it'll probably be a full night tonight, but we'll just have to see. It was field day today, so there may be a few people out. So we'll begin with check-ins. I will ask for your call sign, your name, and did you see the film? You do not have to necessarily have seen the film. You can just say, I did not see the film, and we'll ask if you might want to see it after our review. I have a feeling just about everybody who's listening has seen this film. So please come with your call sign, your name, and did you see tonight's film, Close Encounters of the Third Kind? Begin. No one wants to check in. This would be a first. Let's try again.
Number Victor 5 Foxtrot, Virginia. I saw the movie. I am just hanging on to staying awake, but I want you to have somebody checking in.
Foxtrot 5, Papa Delta Sierra, Billy on Echo Link. I saw the non-director's cut recently, but it's been a while since I've seen the director's cut, but I have seen the film, KFI PDS.
All right, let me go ahead and get those 2 checked in. Maybe field day pooped out more people than I thought. NV5F, Virginia, yes, she saw the film and she's hanging on to consciousness. KF5PDS, Miss Billy, yes, she saw the film. And we can talk about the difference between the directors and all of that on my turn. Anyone else want to check in? We can try a little later, but if you'd like to check in, we'd like to have a few more people. Please come now. Okay, well, this may be a quick one tonight, Virginia. I'll let you give it all you got. If this is your only round, that's fine. Since there's only 3 of us tonight, this may go quickly anyhow. So NV5F, Virginia, what'd you think about the plot?
Okay, thanks, Tom. Well, yeah, it's kind of ironic because this is a particularly long movie, and it's also a good movie, so I would have guessed that we would have had a bigger crowd and made it all the way to midnight. Of course, this movie's great. The plot is very straightforward, and it's amazing how Steven Spielberg could take a really simple concept and even back then explore the psychological and sociological aspects of it to such a degree as he did, and starting with just the odd things of them finding things like old airplanes and then suddenly cutting from that to something totally different, families and their normal lives, and setting up a pretty a pretty mysterious, mood. Always felt like his earlier films, especially this one, to me this might be his very best one, because it was just so good at making this sort of exciting and scary and intriguing and, one moment sort of whimsical and the next moment mysterious and another moment, pretty terrifying. Because you've got these parallel plots. You've got this regular guy with his, his out-of-control family life, and then you've got this single mom and her little kid who's, who's been picked, and the whole idea that people are sort of hand-picked by these aliens for whatever reason, and then just the simple story of them feeling compelled to get to this landing site and their pre-visualization of it, and it's all just, it's super easy to follow, and you never get bored of it. I've seen this movie. I've seen all 3 cuts of this, and I agree. This one's pretty good. The original's pretty great. I'd actually like to see that one again. I haven't seen it in a long time. The re-release, which they did run on cable a lot when I was growing up, the 78 re-release, I saw a bunch. But I actually really like the original cut of this. It leaves a few things to the imagination. I think it cut out the whole sequence where he's digging up all the stuff and ripping up the lady's fence and shoveling dirt into the windows so that he can build his indoor Devil's Tower. I think that whole sequence was left out of the original. Anyway, I really think it's amazing still when I watch it how not dated or slow or anything it seems. It's just the plot's really well done. It's really well edited. It's really well paced out for something so simple. They just take it into such a level of detail. Here's my plug for 2001. Another movie of the same year, Star Wars. And this film, both directors were big fans of 2001, and they were both, I think they were both, certainly both inspired by that film. In fact, Douglas Trumbull turned down Star Wars to do visual effects on Close Encounters, or that's what I gather. Lucas did ask him, and he turned him down because I think he was probably already engaged by Spielberg. But yeah, I think the plot it's cool, it's human, it's got the family man who's disenchanted and alienated, and the single mom who's just trying to get her son back, and it weaves those 2 plots in with all the other individuals who of course aren't the other people that are drawn to this encounter. And I do like the ending because it goes through all that kind of terrifying stuff of them trying to get to the site, and the fake chemical spill, and and it kind of calls out the government and the military on the carpet a little bit, and they're kind of defeated by these 2 individuals who are determined, and it has their little adventure just trying to get to the landing site. And then once they get there, everybody just kind of accepts that they're there. They're like, oh well, they made it, they deserve to be here. And that's what I can't remember the guy, I can never remember the character name, but Francois Truffaut, he's an interesting character in this movie. I like him. And I of course like I always call him Dr. Chandra, Bob Balaban. I always liked him in this. the perfect guy to be like the translator. And cartographer slash translator, and he's the guy who figures out that all the numbers they're getting are coordinates. So that's kind of cool. I really like this. I like the plot. I like the ending. It's very poignant and satisfying. Everybody gets their loved ones back. All the people who've been abducted come back. I do feel for these military guys who were abducted like in the 40s or whatever, and they're coming back like, 30 years later, and relativity means that, they're kind of like time travelers. But yeah, I love the characters, how they take every character, and I know that's round two, but I like how they just weave their plots into each other in a very, it's just a good plot, simple, easy to follow. You care about what's happening, and it has a good ending. So, see, I got to say a lot. I killed a little time. NV5F.
All right, well, thank you, Virginia. Hang in there. I think maybe with just your comments there, we may be able to attract a few people that are still out there that have seen the film but don't always check in. Next is Billy, KF5PDS. Welcome back, Billy. By the way, thank you for doing a great net this evening, and I have a feeling you're here because this is one of your favorite films. But you tell us, what did you think about the plot for Close Encounters of the Third Kind from KE5ICX?
Hey, thank you, Tom, and it was my pleasure to do Skynet. It's one of my favorite things to do. Yes, I'm here because this is one of my favorite films. Usually when it comes on, I will tune in. No matter where it is in the film, I will tune in. I remember seeing it for the first time in the theaters. I was a kid going to the movies and seeing, all of the... Even though it was a long film, it's very engaging. I agree with what Virginia said. It's a great mixture of mystery, humor, scary suspense, and yes, the ending is super endearing when you finally get to see the alien. It really does tug at the heart. And Spielberg does that so well. He humanizes, his characters are just, very thoroughly human with all their flaws, and we're seeing how the stress affects their lives, and they're going through this, they feel this call, this need. They can't figure out what it is. I love Richard Dreyfuss. He plays that character, Roy, so well. He's got this, compulsion to do this, and he does not know why. He's like, but he knows it's important. And I think it's interesting that he goes to sculpture, which helps them later on in the film because he knows what the other side of that landscape is going to look like, and Jillian didn't because she did paintings. So she only saw one side of it. So I thought that was interesting when they start comparing how they came to this moment. It wasn't all the same. They all had their own experience. And I think it's interesting also, when I first saw that, first saw the movie, I remember turning to my mom, I'm like, why is it Close Encounters of the Third Kind? What's the Close Encounter of the First Kind or the Second Kind? And she didn't know at the time, and so I read up on it, just having like a sighting or, and not sure what you're seeing, and then seeing the actual craft, and it's a bona fide sighting, to finally where the aliens step out and we meet them. We're led through that journey of those close encounters of the first kind, then the second kind, and when Roy's in the truck and the light shines down on him and we see the lights come behind him, that was just such a cool moment. I got goosebumps, and the mailbox is shaking, he's out there on that country road all by himself, and then he has that encounter. So Spielberg leads us through those encounters whether we realize it or not. And then we get to the final end and where we have the close encounter of the third kind. And I know we'll talk about music later, but I just love how music is woven through this film. and of course the famous 5 notes that, is worldwide recognizable. If you go for those tones, everybody knows them. So Spielberg has a great way of getting into the zeitgeist immediately and just makes everything super memorable. So it's highly engaging. I love how it goes back and forth between mystery and humor and suspense and scary, and then finally to the touching ending, which Spielberg does so well. And it's a movie that I can go to over and over again and not get tired of. So with that, I'll return it to you, Tom. This is KFI-PDS, back to net.
Okay, thank you, Billy. Thank you for those comments. I echo and agree with everything you said. Before I make my comments, I'll go see if we can find some other folks out there. There's just the 3 of us checked in. If you'd like to join us and talk about Close Encounters of the Third Kind, this would be a good time to check in. Please come with your call sign, your name, and did you see the film?
Kilo Bravo 9, Oscar Kilo, shot in Fort Worth. Yes, I have seen this film.
All right, we got one of our regulars. I'm watching Echolink over here to see if anybody pops in there. Nothing. KB9SOK, Sean, you're up next. We're talking plot. What do you think?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said. It is a simple plot, but it's so well done with, as everybody's already said, the variation of suspense, thrill, and then, wonder. Just very well done. I remember seeing the original in the theater, and then, of course, I haven't seen the actual original cut, probably since the theater, actually. It would almost be interesting, because to me, the one weak part I thought of the film, if we're nitpicking, and this is nitpicking, is the scene exactly that was mentioned earlier that was added in, and him just constantly throwing stuff through that window, trying to get materials to build. I know they had to have a reason to show the family leaving, but that scene was the one scene I felt just kind of drug on a little too long. But that's it. That's about the only thing I can really nitpick at this film, because it was so well done. This time around, and maybe because before when I watched it I was younger, it has been a while since I've watched it. In the end, I did feel just a little bit bad for the guy's family, because obviously he disappeared. Now he's taken off in the spaceship. Now those poor kids are fatherless. So that part was a little bit, well, that was kind of sad. But of course you had to root for him, because obviously he wanted to go. And I'm sure many have always wondered what it'd be like to travel in space. So yeah, you can't help but kind of root for the guy to make it and finally make it up there. I won't dwell on what everybody's kind of already said, because I said that the one thing I will say that's nice about, I think it's nice about this movie, and even some of the movies from this time period, we had this, not too long after that E.T., it's nice to actually see a movie about aliens where it's not all about them destroying us or us trying to destroy them. It's actually nice to see the attempt to communicate with them, in an intelligent way. And I know there's been a couple films since this that have focused on communication or trying to communicate, but it seems like 9 out of 10 films is always about pretty much just trying to destroy them and vice versa, and using the military being really stupid. But this time they were obviously being smart, really wanted to communicate, and then also, trying to figure out a halfway intelligent way to keep the public away. So I admire the thought that went into this, and making it feel like it'd be a more realistic situation if it did happen, that they would make the effort to communicate first. So that is nice. But yes, I definitely enjoyed this film. It is, I consider it a classic. So I even recently finally picked it up on 4K. Haven't watched it yet, so it was a good excuse to watch it. So anyway, that's all I got. Back to net, KB9SOK.
Good. Thank you, Sean. Thanks for those comments. And yeah, it had been a while since I'd seen the film. Certainly, it's one of my favorites. And I think I kind of fell in love with it again while watching it yesterday, then part of today. I can't stay up late on Fridays. I got to get up super early on Saturday morning, so sometimes I got to bug out a little early before the movie ends, especially if it's over 90 minutes. But even still, even with that break this morning, I watched it, and I really enjoyed it. I think the movie moves at a rather fast pace for as long as it is. There are scenes that I agree with you. I was happy when they deleted the whole crazy duck routine. That was okay, and I guess there was some humor and some disturbing scenes with it. As far as the family thinking he's gone nuts, of course, there are plenty of other scenes where Roy exhibits that behavior, and the family is just kind of falling apart. So that part, I agree. Cutting that would have been perfectly fine. The surprise of having this big, huge model of the Devil's Tower there was striking enough. So I think that did the shocking part just fine. The scene, they also they deleted that scene and they restored. They restored that scene and another. They did the conference with the alien, the people, the news conference. That was added back in, which I thought was okay. It helped it a little, and it explained the reemergence of the two of them together, the woman and Roy. And that I think was fine. There was nothing wrong with those scenes, and the crazy guy with the Bigfoot thing, that made perfect sense and just totally invalidated everything. You could see the look on everybody's faces. Some of the things about the film were interesting. Now, there was one comment about the fact that why would the guy leave? Of course, this is, I guess, really the next round, but why would the guy leave his family? And that didn't make any sense. And Spielberg said that he was single at the time. He wasn't thinking in those terms of family. Since then, of course, he's very much all family. He's created family-type films. I mean, E.T. is like that and very closely related. So, yeah. He says if he were to do it over, that would be different. So I'm cool with that. Now, some of the things that are interesting about the film that are a bit open-ended, and that doesn't make it bad. It just makes me wonder why it wasn't covered. And then you try and deconstruct it. I think this was an everyman story. This is Roy's story rather than the bigger story. And that's fine, and that's where they focused. But the mysterious UN group, I guess it's UN, I think it's UN, that are the UFOologists, and they've got their little logo, triangle, NASA-like flag and all of that. We don't know anything about this organization or who they are or how long they've been working on these projects or who Lacombe is or how all these people play into it or how it's financed. How do they talk to do the nations finance it? Do they talk to them privately? Is it something that's public? Is it independent? I don't know. It would have been kind of interesting to know what, Lacombe is the highest authority. Well, he's not even American, which is an interesting line because we never find out the answer to that question, which is kind of interesting in and of itself. So I wonder about that, certainly, and then how the government plays into it and their denial. Is it denial, or is it simply they're waiting for this first contact? Now, we did get in Contact, the movie by Carl Sagan, written by Carl Sagan, the book, and then as a movie, fills in some of those blanks in somewhat interesting ways. I don't know if it would be that overt, but probably something in between nothing that we got in Close Encounters to everything in Contact. It'd probably be somewhere in between. Now, another thing that concerned me, and I don't know if this falls into the story or not, I think it does, Why were the people picked? Now we noticed in a very short scene in the helicopter when they're taking away people that got and breached security and got to Devil's Tower and managed to get to someplace on the property, and then they're being helicoptered out because and these are some of the people that we remember from the previous scene. Were they just happenstance? Because Roy was out doing his job, driving along the highway, and we get that cute scene where the spacecraft goes over him and does the little heat ray thing on him, and I guess the mind meld to him as well. Is it random? Because that seems random. Yet then when we had what was the kid's name? Oh well, I can't remember the kid's name. Whatever the kid's name was, he obviously embraces the aliens because he's a child and he's not afraid because he has no fear at that point. He has curiosity only, and the aliens went all so far as to go back and get him. I mean, they went after him rather than the other way around. Now, is that because he's a child and he can't do it, and he can kind of mentally order people to come to them, perhaps? I don't know. I suppose that's true. But then there's this other weird thing that you have to take into account, too, is they eventually do send a signal and say, hey, we're going to be here at this location, come visit, but they've already invited people. Was that the plan? Was this multiple things that they were doing, that they wanted to talk to humanity in an organized way, people that would show up, and then also to hedge their bet and pick all these people that they happen to find accidentally on their little journeys to get them to come visit? I mean, they could already abduct them anyway. Why didn't they just pick them up and take them to the spaceship and do their probe and drop them off like they do in the regular part? I don't know. That was somewhat strange. Didn't understand that. Another thing, too, is, and let's move on, when they leave the artifacts behind, have they decided to reveal themselves? Yes, they do, because they leave the Cotopaxi, I guess, the ship from World War and the World War II pilots from the Pensacola mission. They do that and bring the planes to announce their readiness to talk to the humans, learn their languages. What a neat achievement that would be. I think there's a song there somewhere. But in the end, what caused them to do this? Is it important? I guess not, because we still love this film and everyone else loves this film. But these are questions that kept coming up and crop up every time I watch this film and all its manifestations, and I can't figure out the answer. Also, the hand signals. That was another thing that was great in the tonal language. That was fine. I liked that. But how did they connect those two things together? Was it because of previous... let me reset.
The time is 11 p.m.
Just because of contact in the past? Maybe the hand signs, was it Kerwin ham signs, was something that was sent by the aliens? You know, like they're saying maybe Einstein was one of them. I don't know. These are fascinating questions that are never even discussed in the film, which I thought would be really, really great. It would have really great answers. But again, if you say too much and you overtell, you ruin your own imagination and thought process in the movie's construction. I don't know. I just wondered. And to throw that all out into the weird world is going back to the whole thing with Roy leaving his family. That to me seemed like a real guffaw in the film. Why would he do that? And then I'm thinking about all these other little disconnects. Is that part of it? I don't know. I didn't know that there were so many people that worked on the film and they took different pieces from all of it. It kind of has a piecemeal to it to a certain extent. The coherence, the events take place, but they aren't always completely coherent. The motivations aren't quite there. So those are my only arguments about the film that I wasn't too sure about. It wasn't as perfectly constructed as to my satisfaction, Although I have to say it's a tremendously entertaining movie, and I love it. I enjoy watching it every time it's on. So, but these little nitpicks do go through my head. But then again, I go crazy over roll patterns on Saturn V's and Apollo 13. So that's me. Okay, let's get going on the next round. This would be characterization. So we'll start with Virginia, NV5F. You've got the floor. Characterization and acting from our movie tonight, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Director's Edition.
Okay, thank you, Tom. To begin, those hand signals are standard hand signals used for solfege, which is do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, and so on. And they are actually used in music education and choir directing, maybe not as much as they once were, but I know about that. So I thought I would just throw that in. I did double check with an online source. Let's see, these were like you mentioned, they're God, this print is tiny. The Kerwin hand signs, which are traditionally used to teach music theory and solfege. So they are a standard thing. I'm not sure how the aliens knew them, but those aliens were pretty dang smart. Let's see, characters and acting, just great across the board. And to me, this is good actors, all, but Steven Spielberg is just such a good director, and even no matter who he directed, especially during this era, everything had a flavor that he gave it. It's obviously his work. He could get just such good natural performances out of his actors. Any of these actors might have been in a number of other movies, and of course were great actors in those films as well, but there's something about how he directs scenes. It's almost like he just says, we're going to have this scene, and he just lets everybody kind of, to me it just always feels really like the people aren't even acting, and that's why I know that's a hallmark of his movies. He just has he's just really good getting natural performances out of actors. The characters are people that you can relate to. There's been a lot of talk about Roy and why he left his family. And yeah, Steven Spielberg might have handled that differently after having his own family, but I don't know, at the same time, and it's a poignant thing that he left his family, and I think that makes the end of the movie that much more powerful. They definitely set him up as a sympathetic character. They have, his wife is she's not a horrible wife, but she's just kind of out of touch with him, and maybe a little less thoughtful, especially once he's been affected by something otherworldly and in some sense supernatural. He kind of becomes a different, it changes his character in that he's, but even before that, they set him up really well as, he's this guy who wants to, his whole family wants to go, his kids want to go play, goofy golf, and he wants to go, see Pinocchio, and, you have this sense even before he encounters the aliens, he's set up as kind of got an imagination and a sense of wonder, and it's pretty standard movie, exposition and setup stuff, but it's, Spielberg just does all that so well, and just the chaos of his family and the way everybody's interacting and just reacting, and nothing seems expositional or canned. It just all seems very like a normal, crazy, out of control family. And the single mom, Jillian, she seems like I don't know, there's about people in their kind of everyday situations. And my mom, at about that same time, we were a little older than the kid in the movie Barry, but at the time this came out, but my mom was a single mom in the 70s, and when I watch this, I'm right back there. It's just unbelievable how well it was all, it's all handled, and how good the acting is, and even Lacombe and I'm just going to call him Dr. Chandra. You care about them. You just like at the beginning when he's like, what's going? She's just got that like total freak out, like I'm suddenly here translating French for this guy and all these international, whoever these people are. I guess they're supposed to be some kind of UN, special international alien, emissary group or something, because they seem to, they're picking up on all these things from all over the world with the tones that the people are getting from the aliens, and the singing ships, and the and the hand signals, and finding all the weird airplanes and ships and things that so yeah, just great all across the board. I don't really, except for a couple of things that beware the director's cut. I know directors love to come in and take their favorite scenes. It took them forever to shoot and go, I've got to have this in there, but editors do what they do for a reason, and a couple of the sequences, I think the long sequence that was left in where Roy is ransacking the landscaping and all that, it's whimsical, but I think it just overdoes that. Like, oh, now his wife just thinks he's nuts, but without that scene, it's like, well, he wakes up the next morning and she's leaving, and you're just like, well, why is she leaving? But you know why she's leaving. They've been screaming at each other the night before, and she's, by that edit, she's woken up that morning and decided, yeah, I need to get out of here, So I do think that scene kind of overplayed Roy's character, and I remember when I was watching it yesterday, I was like, I like him, and I'm very sympathetic to him, but this whole scene, if I was her, I would leave him too, because he was like that. In that particular scene, he was just obnoxious, So I think I would have left that on the cutting room floor. Yeah, just good stuff all the way around. Great acting. Spielberg just always got such fantastic performances out of really well cast actors, and this has been a favorite since I was a kid. So there's not a whole lot bad I'll be able to say about it. And even the aliens, they're pretty good in this. They're practical effects, and they still, everything here just holds up. It's kind of like watching The Right Stuff for 2001. It's like I never get tired of this in V5F.
All right, thank you, Virginia. By the way, thank you for explaining that whole thing to me about the hand gestures. That was a big help, because I did not know what that is, and I do see in the wiki, there's a hot link to it. I'll read up on it a little bit. That was confusing to me all these years, and you've explained it to me. Next up is Billy. Oh, by the way, David, W5EBB, I see you there. I'll get you in. I know you want to talk about this film. I can tell from just seeing your name over there on Echolink. So I'll get to you in just a few here. KF5PDS, Billy, you're next. What did you think about characterization and acting from KE5ICX?
Great, thank you, Tom. Yeah, I too am familiar with solfege. I was in choir in junior high and high school and also university choirs. And I learned the solfege hand signals in 7th grade, 6th grade when I took general music. And so seeing that in a film, and also I think the aliens, I don't know that they knew it, but they saw him do it, and I take it as they are just very quick study, and they just reciprocated, and that showed they could maybe form some kind of communication, even if until they could verbalize, they could at least have a tonal communication and a visual communication. So I just love that they were bonding through music, which is, to me, a very unique thing, and it can go beyond just verbal communication. So I love that aspect of it. I think the acting is top notch. I agree with what Virginia said. You get these great performances, from Terry Garr, Richard Dreyfuss, Bob Balaban, and Francois Truffaut, who is a French New Wave director and noted filmmaker in his own right. So I think that is awesome that Spielberg got him to play in the film. And I just thought all the performances were really great. The kids were wonderful. I felt so bad for the children when the parents are screaming at each other, and the one kid's calling his dad a crybaby and just repeatedly slamming the door, and the other kids, the young girl was like covering her ears and shouting like, "Stop it!" It's like the whole turmoil of the family just really gets to you. But I think the scene where he's chucking things through the window needs to stay in there. I actually thought that was important to see. Just how over-the-top things got and why she would leave. And even the neighbors, he went over to that poor lady's house and ripped up her fencing for her geese. He was really starting to get outside of the family home with it, and all the neighbors, seeing all the drama played out. But I thought his construction of the sculpture was very creative. He took a trash receptacle and chicken wire and threw, all the mud and the shrubberies, and even some of the kids were getting into it. They were chucking stuff in the window, saying, "Like this, Dad, like this," so they were trying to help him. And I think the kids just were having a ball. I think they would have had fun, pitching in and helping Dad build the giant Devil's Tower in the living room. And Terry Garr is like, "No, you are coming with me, and we are leaving." So I think it was important just to see how that out, because that gives him impetus to leave the planet Earth. It's just like his curiosity and wonder, as Virginia said, he already showed a great affinity for imagination and wonder. Trumped his need to stay on the planet. He was just so curious and so compelled that he left. And poor Jillian, her son Barry gets abducted, which has added, impetus for her to get there, because, she, I don't know, she is wondering if she'll see her son again. Of course, they are reunited, and it's a touching moment and everything, but at the time, it's like, why did they just abduct him outright from the home, And that part was scary to me as a kid, especially the suspense where you see the screws being, loosened from the floorboards, and the whole thing where she reaches her hand into the flue to shut the damper. Even to this day, that gets my heart racing. And I think, man, Melinda Dillon, you're a brave woman. And I love Melinda Dillon. She was great as the mom. Pictures. When they got there, she had her camera out, and she's back there just snapping away. And I'm like, Good for you. Get that proof. So I thought that was really interesting too. That she was mindful enough to be back there taking pictures when all this was happening. And a very young Lance Henriksen, we see him as one of the scientists at the end too. And he is, a wonderful actor used in sci-fi films masterfully as well. So I thought the acting was just top-notch. Spielberg always gets very human and real performances, and everybody's believable. There's not one performance in there that to me does not ring true. And interactions are wonderful. I just wish there had been a little bit more about some of the other people that were getting helicoptered out of there that didn't get to go the distance. Just to get a little more insight into those characters. But it's good that we see that there's more than just the few that we focus on. But I think it would have been neat to have seen a little bit more if the director had included a little more backstory into some of the other folks, even if it wasn't to such great detail. But just little vignettes, just a few more, just to see some of those minor characters. But again, I thought everything was very well cast, very well acted, and not a disappointing performance in the least in anybody, and I rooted for all those characters. I don't think there was outright any character that I can recall that I was totally was against. I don't really see any one villain character in the film. So with that, I think characterization was just spot on all the way. So with that, I'll return it to you, Tom, back to net. This is KFI PDS.
All right, very good. Thank you, Billy. Good comments on characterization. Next up is Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, what did you think of characterization and the movie itself? Since we've got you now, please go ahead from KE5ICX.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. I agree with everybody. Very well acted. I'm not really sure they even had a single person that didn't seem to fit the role they were playing. Very well cast. And this was early on in many of their careers, so pretty impressive. And I agree with Virginia Spielberg doing a great job on getting what he needed out of them. Really there's not a whole lot to say other than it was just extremely well done. At the end of the day, I'm still not a fan of the one scene going on longer than it did. Had they shortened it, I think it would have been okay. But throwing the stuff in the window, I don't think it needed to be 10 minutes. But anyway, that's just kind of a little personal preference. But yeah, I really like the comment about there really wasn't a villain in this film, and I guess I never thought about it, but there really isn't. So it is kind of nice. We don't really have anybody that they're really fighting against other than just time and trying to get there to make it. And you almost kind of feel bad for the characters in the film that didn't get to get on the ship and go. So yeah, I mean, it is an interesting film in that respect. That there are no bad guys. It's just just everybody just trying to get there, and then the variety of personalities and approaches. But actually not a lot there for this round because it was just good acting. Nothing to complain about. And I'm sure if Tony was here tonight, he always talked about likability, and these characters were extremely likable, and you were rooting for them, really all, to make it, to get to watch the ships come in and find out what happened. One of those rare cases where we actually get to say we like these characters, and we didn't want them to be knocked off like in 99% of the films that we watch. So, hey, kudos to that. Anyway, back to that. KB9SOK.
All right, thank you, Sean. And yeah, you talk about plot on the first round. So I meant that, I guess, for David, who's out there, W5EBB. He has acknowledged that he would like to speak. And I also see, is Bill still there? Well, I'll ask. He was out there. I thought maybe he might want to speak. Okay, we'll go with David, W5EBB. David, what did you think about the plot and then characterization after that from KE5ICX?
Takes about 5 presses of the transmit button for it to finally recognize me. Thanks for picking me up, Tom. This is David, W5EBB in Springtown. So, yeah, I remember sitting in the Ridgely Theater in, I guess it was 1977, really just a few months after Star Wars came out. And I remember sitting in the theater with family and friends, and I remember thinking, this is nothing like Star Wars. Star Wars was a much better movie. So, to me as a 10-year-old, Close Encounters was a very slowly developing movie, but the adults seemed to appreciate it. But, and it wasn't until, of course, later on in life I recognized this to be a really good movie, but not so good that I actually bought it. I never bought a copy of it, but it's always available for free these days somewhere. But, the one thing that's hard for a 10-year-old to figure out is, okay, are these good aliens or bad aliens? Are these good spaceships or bad spaceships? Because you couldn't really tell. As for a good alien, bad alien, well, Ridley Scott resolved that question a few years later in 1979 with Alien, definitely bad, but. Some of the scenes I like to watch over, like the air traffic control scene near the beginning, just classic, and that is accurate air traffic control. The phraseology, the actual displays at the time, and in the end they talk about, no, I don't want to report one of those either. And it's interesting that these days you can find on YouTube actual air traffic control discussions about these lights that are above the altitude of aircraft, and they're talking with air traffic control about it, and other pilots see the same thing, and they always have to say, no, it's not a Starlink satellite, because that's what they'll claim it is. But there's some stuff going on up there, even today. And, in some of the scenes where you see and you have to be careful to look for this in the scenes where you see the alien spaceship in the background in the early parts of the movie, just like a little satellite. And that's exactly what the satellites look like today. And of course there are hundreds of them now that you can see every night if you're out in the country. Just look out up in the sky, straight up, about an hour after sunset, and you will see all of these ballistic satellites, from all different directions. So there's a lot more of them, and it's interesting how that was depicted well in Close Encounters. That's really what they look like. Now, as for the characters, well, and there's no bad guys. Yes, there are bad guys in this movie. The bad guys are the government, the ones who are deceiving and lying to the people in Wyoming. They're lying to people about what's going on just to keep it all secret. And the obsession that overwhelms Roy is just so obvious, and it happens to all of these people. So that is also the character villain, is the obsession that overwhelms these people. And of course, what did Spielberg do for the alien perception? Well, it certainly spun off a lot of things like Ancient Aliens and E.T. Among Us, and all the shams and distractions and diversions, people making a buck on the UFO phenomenon. So I don't think he did anybody any favor that exploded in the decades after. But hopefully one of these days this will all be put to rest, or it'll all be revealed. One of the two. W5EBB.
All right, thank you, David. W5BLT. He was there, but he disappeared. But I'm going to open it up to anybody who'd like to join us this evening. If you'd like to join us, we're talking about Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So come with your call sign, your name, and did you see the film? Okay, well, I guess it's just going to be us this evening. A few other people skedaddled. I think it was probably a long day for folks I had forgotten that it was Winterfield Day today. Probably would have picked a different film so we get more participation, but I just simply forgot. Any rate, let's see here. My thoughts on characterization. I did read through. I was kind of sneaking through the casting part, and indeed the what Spielberg wanted was the everyman. I guess there were several different scripts that were proffered, and all of the characters were Project Blue Book officers and policemen and all of that. He wanted an everyman person, so they created the Roy Neary character, and then Richard Dreyfuss was really pushing for it. They were looking for a big-name star, Dustin Hoffman, Al Pacino, Gene Hackman, James Caan. And he said, that doesn't work for who you want. I'm your guy. And as it turned out, he was the right guy for the role. And he did a really great job with it. I thought quite exceptional overall. And as everybody else has echoed, all the performances were good. The method acting for Gary, the kid, he just came off really great. All he did was Spielberg worked with him one-on-one to get the emotional reactions that he needed to make it work, but that kid just looks so authentic through the whole thing. And he's the enigma, of course. He just totally accepts the aliens on face value, is perfectly fine and happy, and ice cream and all of that. Nothing to be scared of from him. He's fully engaged. It's time to play, he says, which I think is an interesting thing. And again, that may be a reason why they came back for him. The other is, of course, he can't drive, so he's not going to go to Devil's Tower. So who knows? I don't know. Could be either or both. You'll have to ask the aliens about that one. And let's see, the one character who, Bob Balaban, I think it is, the assistant, the French interpreter, I always was trying to, every time I watched Close Encounters, I'd rack my brain as to who that guy was, and every time I watched 2010, I'd rack my brain wondering who that guy was. Well, that's the guy. For some weird reason, I'd never connected that actor to both those parts, even though it's very logical to do so. Must be the aliens interfering with my association with actors to various roles. But he was quite good in this. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Oh, some of the things that were interesting that we've not mentioned are some of the bit parts, the bit characters that are in this thing. I love the guy who does the Moog synthesizer. I think it's a Moog synthesizer or a synthesizer. He actually played all of that. He was a true musician, and his like totally spaced out, oh my God, this is over the top for me, look as they take and they move the thing closer to the spaceship, and he just follows along. He's in another world himself. I think that's just so great. I love that a lot. There's a quick shot of J. Allen Hynek in it, and I recognized him mainly because the year before, or earlier that year, I had not met him, but I was at a conference in Toronto, Canada, and he was there. It was a science fiction thing. No, I wasn't there for the UFO secret convention, but he was there, and he was talking about the film, and he was explaining what the third kind meant because nobody knew. The film hadn't come out yet, and his involvement. Of course, invariably they talked to him about swamp gas and his time with Project Blue Book and his interviews in that, which I remember very distinctly, his interview live on television in I think it was 1966, because I thought that the UFO thing was so fascinating as a kid. You know, as a young boy, I really was getting into that, and it was starting to show up. So his presence on TV was quite interesting. Of course, he was younger then, too. But at any rate, neither here nor there. Other characters, I think everybody else has pretty much covered it quite well. All the performances were well done, I thought. And Terry Garr, as much as I love her as an actress, she just drove me nuts in this film. I wanted to strangle her. I understood her plight and everything that was going on, but good acting begets emotions from the audience, and mine was I just wanted to just stop her, because we knew Roy was hurting, we just didn't know how or why, and she didn't know how to handle the situation. So if you ever want to do like couples counseling or something, this is a film to show people on everything not to do. Think calmly, work calmly, speak in hushed or relaxed tones, ask open questions, don't judge, you know, all that stuff that they do in therapy and counseling and all that. Definitely didn't happen here. So there you have it. I thought it was all interesting. Let's see here, 11:30. Oh, we got plenty of time for round 3. We'll go ahead and start with round 3. This is the biggie. This is special effects and or anything else you want to talk about, music, techniques, whatever wasn't covered in the first couple of rounds, with an emphasis on the technology part. So we'll start with Virginia and B5F. You're on.
Okay, thank you, Tom. I have a few things. I'll try to make it not too long. I'm gonna reiterate what David was saying about the antagonist in this movie. It's not one single person. It's the system. It's the sort of higher up elitism of the government going, oh, people can't handle this. We've got to squelch them and keep this a secret and control all of it. And what I liked about this is that by the end, you've got the interpreter guy. He's sort of the bridge. You know, he's the one who's working for whoever the UN globalist guys are, and he's seeing kind of both sides of it. And there's the scene where, he screams, they're trying to get rid of all the people that have fought tooth and nail to get there, and he's screaming, they were invited! He's got that, and what's going on? Sort of, he's almost like the chorus for the audience. He's saying all the things that, or often he's saying the things that the audience are thinking. Like, what the heck? So I like his character. He's a Bob Balaban is a slightly built little guy who's just very lovable and works really well in that kind of role. So yeah, I would say that sort of the system is being called into question here. This was also done in E.T. by Steven Spielberg, and another thing he did in both movies was he looked at things through, even though more so in E.T., of course, but he likes to look at things through the eyes of children, and that wonder, you have the wonder of Roy, and the whole Pinocchio reference, and then you have the little boy who's playing the tones on the xylophone, and he's just not afraid at all, even though that same scene, or that same storyline where he's abducted a few scenes later, is one of the scariest things. It's the scariest thing in the whole movie, and it's almost like for that one scene, you really do. He's trying to capture the horror of the mom, because the kid is like all, hey man, whatever, and she's like, you're trying to take my kid, and he seems fine with it, and she's freaking out, and it's so disconcerting, that he's like laughing and he's like, come in through the door. Even though he says it like, like heightens the weird sort of, almost like he's been hypnotized by the aliens and she's just, it's her kid. And that scene is just, and a good science fiction movie has just enough spooky in it. That's what I've always thought. And things like Alien that go into horror territory, I'm not as big of a fan of. I like something like this, or 2001 or 2010, things that have just enough of that spooky feel. So, and then Spielberg can layer sound in such a way, like he can have sounds a few rooms away, like the sound of a television that's been left on in the middle of the night, and the sound of like all the stuff, coming on in the house when the aliens get close by, and the kid's record player going, and he has a way of just like layering media.
9, 0.
Like you'll have a radio or a vision or something, kind of crackling off to the side, and then you have just layers of people and their conversations, and it all feels, it's like this super great, like mise en scène, like created just with sound, and he often does those scenes with no score. There's no music in those scenes. It's just all the sound design, and he did a lot of that. He did that in E.T. as well. He did a lot of it in Jaws. It's just a signature thing to me, is the way a Spielberg movie sounds, but then the look, the light. I call it Spielberg light, and it started with Close Encounters, and it's just the way he works with light. And the spaceships in this, they're the coolest. I still think they're the coolest looking spaceships in any movie, hands down. They're so like floaty and amorphous and almost heavenly, but still you can tell they're spaceships, and the light on them is just so otherworldly, and that they're just beautiful. The Spielberg John Williams combination without the music, and to take a thing like five tones and make it, flesh it out into so much other, themes, and even just make that into this big, huge theme at the end. But and this was, I noted this last night, Tom, you had gone to bed, but after the movie was over, in this particular cut, and I think it was because of copyrights, by then Disney had gotten kind of big for their britches, and in this cut the closing credits music was altered. They took When You Wish Upon a Star out of it. They couldn't take it out of the parts in the movie, because there were parts of it in the movie, and it was echoing the music, the Pinocchio music box that was in the movie earlier. And one of my favorite things in this movie is the closing credits score, and in the director's cut they cut that theme from the end credits music. So I found the original end credits music and posted it on the group last night. I was like, this is what it's supposed to sound like. So I don't know why Disney, I'm guessing Disney called them on that, and they were like, you can't have that in there anymore. There's no other reason they would have taken it out. So shame on Disney for that, if that's what happened, which I'm guessing it is. But yeah, this whole, there's so much to talk about in round 3, but those are my big takeaways. The visual effects. Douglas Trumbull outdid himself for sure, and they did use some projection techniques in this that were also used in 2001, especially in the scene where they were on the road and the kid almost gets hit by Roy's truck. That was all on a soundstage, and it was all, the sky and everything in that were done with the similar front projection technique that Stanley Kubrick used in 2001. And Doug Trumbull was a big developer on the visual. And you can see some of that in the way the ships are done. You can see some of that kind of a slit scan feel that's in the Stargate sequence of 2001. You can definitely see that flavor. And that, it's just amazing. It was all done in camera. It's all like real, composited, but it's all like no computers on this, and it's still just amazing, and it still, to me, feels more real because it is real. And I actually love to see movies that are practical that still hold up. So I'll quit there. NV5F.
Okay, thank you, Virginia. Come back. I have some comments on your comments, but first we'll go to Billy, KF5PDS. Billy, your thoughts, special effects, anything you want. Final round. Go ahead from KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. Yeah, I'll make one last comment regarding the government in the film. And Virginia brought up a good point, antagonist versus villain. The government in this film is an antagonist because they set up obstacles that the protagonists have to overcome. But they're not done with evil intentions, so that is what separates an antagonist from a villain. A villain is an antagonist that operates with evil intent. And in this film, the government is not operating with an evil intent. They are aiming to protect people, and yes, they are being secretive and using some deception to keep people away. But it's always usually in sci-fi movies that the government's viewpoint on aliens is coming at it like, what if they're evil? What if they are a threat to us? We don't want to have innocent folks get down in there and have them turn out to be aliens with evil intent. You know, we don't know if they're the villain yet. Of course, they weren't. They were benign. But in this film, yeah, I would say government is definitely an antagonist, but not a villain. So I stand by my original comment that there was no villain in the film, because there's no one in this film, entity or individual, that are acting with evil intentions. Special effects. I agree with Virginia. These special effects hold up very well over the decades. They were visually stunning. I remember as a kid seeing this movie for the first time, especially seeing the big mothership, my jaw just dropped. I was like, wow. And we had already been wowed with special effects with Star Wars. You know, 77 was an amazing year for revolutionary filmmaking as far as special effects went. You know, and Kubrick's, 2001: A Space Odyssey, those also hold up very well over time. But I just remember the spaceships I thought were so cool when they saw the smaller ones when they're all on the hillside, that there were different ones, so they have different classes of spaceships. They weren't all the same shape. They were all these cool neon-y colors, fun, and that's why Barry, I think, was so drawn to them, because he's like 5 and he sees them as fun toys. He even shouts when they start coming, toys, toys. So I think he, remembers they were animating his toys, and that he maybe saw them as toys in the sky. And so he wasn't afraid of them because they were all colorful and fun-looking and everything. But as adults, we, project and can, think about what if, and so I think that's why the adults are more scared than the kids. The kids just saw it as a fun adventure. But yeah, the special effects are just amazing, and can't say enough about Douglas Trumbull. I mean, he has done so much work on films besides this one. I love Academy Award for this film. And one interesting thing that I read about was in the scene where the aliens are coming to Barry's home, the way the clouds are billowing in. He created that effect by injecting white tempera paint into an aquarium. I think that's just a genius thing to create like a physical special effect and then just have it placed in the film that way. I thought that was super cool. And some the special effects were just amazing, and I'm with Virginia. The end credits were just stunning, and John Williams' score is phenomenal. And one other shout-out to Joe Raposo. When the little record player's playing, there's a children's song playing. He wrote that song, and he did a lot of music for Sesame Street. So I remember growing up with Sesame Street, and I still have my vinyl Sesame Street record. So I was, excited to see that in there as well. So just so much music on so many different levels. John Williams' score is just amazing. So anyway, I can't think of anything else to say. Just awesome special effects, amazing music. Just the film, just on every layer, just astounds and amazes, and that's why it's such a great film to me. So I'll return it to you, Tom. This is KF5PDS, back to net.
All right, thank you, Brenda. Thank you, Billy. And let's see, next would be Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, your final comments.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Just a quick comment about last week. I apologize for missing last week. I'd had a little surgery and didn't have access to the radio. But I did listen to you on Echo Link, and you did an awesome job covering last week's movie as well. But anyway, on to this week's. Yeah, I agree. The special effects are obviously excellent. The fact that they still hold up today, watching it last night even on the big screen. A lot of the older movies sometimes don't upscale well, but this still looks good. Which means it was just very well done, which is pretty impressive for the time. I mean, obviously we'd had the 2001 and of course Star Wars, and then this as well. But it is nice to see those practical effects because they do have a tendency to hold up. Yeah, thank you, Billy, for talking about the antagonist versus villain. You took the words right out of my mouth on that one. And Virginia, nice explanation on the sound effects and the layering. I agree, the sound was very well done in this film. Obviously, the music was excellent. When you make a 5-tone theme and it's recognized worldwide, still even today, all these years later, people still, even the young folks, I think recognize it still as well. So that talking about making an impact. As many of you mentioned, is one of those things that I remember sitting in band in high school, and we would mess with the teacher at the beginning of practice by playing those tones. Anyway, so yeah, not much else there than just great effects, very well done. As always, enjoyed the conversation tonight. Looking forward to the next one. So back to that, KB9SO.
All right, thank you, Sean. And yes, Shaun of the Dead. I mean, your namesake was the movie. We were surprised you weren't there. So now we know. Well, at any rate, yeah, it was a fun discussion. Next up is David, W5EBB. David, your final thoughts. Anything you want, technical or otherwise.
Well, thanks, Tom. So one of the things that is so spot on is the 1970s decor. The set designs, maybe it wasn't intentional. They were just the classic 70s look and feel of a very busy household. From the toys, from the artwork, from the bakeware to the glasses with the little sunflower motif and yellow, and everything was just so signature 70s. You wonder if this was prescient, that Spielberg identified these things as being, these would be period pieces to appreciate in the future, to look back on, or if these were just things that were there. It's hard to say. But you certainly get that vibe of a retro feel, and it takes you back in time. The music, yeah, John Williams' signature, excellent music. And it takes me back again to the 10-year-old David, and I was taking piano lessons, and, movie sheet music, that's what I wanted to learn. Star Wars, all the students learned that my piano teacher taught, and Princess Leia's theme, had that down, And I brought him the sheet music to Close Encounters, and I said, I want to learn this. And he looked at it and he said, okay. And a week later he came back and said, David, never bring me something like this again. It was very, very difficult. The timing of it was a little bit difficult for him to even figure out. And he was a TCU student at the time, really great piano teacher. But I still have that sheet music, and I brought it out a few months ago, and it's like riding a bike. You don't forget it. But for people who enjoy piano music and John Williams, I would highly recommend a YouTube channel. There's a guy by the name of Brett Mitchell. And what he does, he takes the original orchestral scores and he adapts them to a piano rendition of that. And he gets all of the complex harmonies and dissonances that make the John Williams scores so wonderful in an orchestra, but he maps it to a piano and it sounds great. And he includes Close Encounters as one of the things that he performs. Brett Mitchell, there's my plug. Thanks for running with that. W5DVD.
All right, David, thank you for your comments and welcome back, and hope we have you here next week as well. Okay, I'm going to open it up to anybody out there. There's a few names floating over on Echolink. If you want to pitch in, I'll give you this opportunity, or anyone else who'd like to check in and have any final comments. Please come with your call now. Okay, hearing none, I'll go ahead and give my final comments. I'm going by memory on this. I think I'm correct, because this is how I experienced it in the theater. Virginia mentioned the When You Wish Upon a Star, which did not appear in the original theatrical release in 1977. It did in, 1980? The music was added in to the film for the special edition when it came out, and then I guess it disappeared again in this edition. I did not hear it, although I didn't watch all the credits on this one. I normally do, but I didn't this time around. But at any rate, I remember reading somewhere, I think it was actually in Cinefantastique magazine, which I bought. It was like $12.95 in 1977. Which is a lot of money back then for a kid. I was 20 years old. I thought that was a lot of money for that magazine, but it was a great magazine. I think it was mentioned in there about that the music, Spielberg wanted to have that in there, and Disney would not allow it, so he couldn't do it the first time around. Second time around, he got it. He got permission, and I guess this third time, no, it went away again. That's Disney for you. Special effects, practical effects, I agree, really cool stuff. There were some shots, and you'll find these pictures now online. They are around, showing the miniatures, the detailed miniatures that were used on the little roundabout there when the spacecraft go over. There's also the film museum out in LA that opened this past year. Has, I believe, those three spacecraft, the three alien spacecraft that do the around the mountain thing there, and there are pictures there that you can look at. And I think they did use a form of neon or bright lights. There's some sort of rotoscoping or something that was used. That was reused again in Blade Runner. They took the models and made it into this incredible effects that very similar to Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and it was one of the people that worked on the film. I don't remember whom. So there you have it. And Douglas Trumbull, he used the ink tank thing for some initial effects for the Stargate for 2001: A Space Odyssey. In fact, that was one of the very first effects that were created for the film initially. before they got other stuff built and created. And so the ink tank was which you can kind of surmise from those Stargate effects that you watch in the film during the ultimate trip. So they were used again in 2001, and I'm sorry, again in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. That was also covered in the Cinefantastic issue. I don't know if I still got it somewhere. If I do, it's squirreled away. But you may be able to find it online. Very good. Talks about all the special effects. Okay, give me a second here. I'll tell you what next week's movie is.
Good morning. The time is 12 a.m.
Escape from L.A. from 1996. Never seen the film, so probably that's going to be one of your A-list films, but I've never seen it, so maybe it'll be worth it. If it's still there, let me check real quick, because it's one of those that probably gets shared and moved around. It does look like it is there. You'll be able to watch it. So next week's movie, John Carpenter's sequel to Escape from New York, New York. This one is Escape from L.A. from whatever I said, 1996. So that'll be it. We'll see you next week. Same bad time, same bad station. Time to watch the Space Primordials or something. That was the name of the third season episode of Lost in Space that's on today. It's got cavemen in it. What else would you have? All right, catch y'all later. 7-3. Have a good evening. Have a good rest of the weekend. This is KE5ICX. Clear.